Do you have a set budget for how much you're going to spend on marketing every year? And then how do you decide which marketing to go with?
All of it.
So like Facebook ads, Twitter ads, you said billboards earlier. Like, I'm guessing you're not going out and pamphleting and putting flyers places. Are you doing that too? Like,
I did, my man. I did everything. You name it, I tried it and I measured it. So here's something for the viewers they can take away from. Learn this again. This is something I learned from a marketing workshop outside of Magic. Okay, whatever gets tracked gets improved, and most people aren't tracking hardly anything. And I remember I went to a workshop that one of Tony Robbins' people was putting on. He was, trying to sell us to go to a Tony Robbins event. Cool. But I mean, there's a lot of good things you get out of some of those free workshops. And this was one of them. And I remember his name was Steve. I walked up to Steve after he was done and he, did a thing and PowerPoint and he had a, dry erase board and he was, doing all this stuff, showing all this stuff. And we were talking about whatever gets tracked gets improved. And
you
when I was
talking, you mean like metrics? You mean like,
yes,
on a digital platform, pretty much
metrics, whatever, everything. So the answer to that question, that was my question to him. I said, what all does Tony track? What are you all tracking Tony Robbins' organization? And he looked at me and he said everything. And at the time, I didn't get it.
Was he that excited about it?
Yeah.
He seems a little bit overworked.
He said everything. And I said, okay. So I went back and there was just a couple of basic things I started with, a few years ago. Just start tracking a few basic things. The very next year, my income went up 15%. And the only thing that was different was me tracking certain things.
And what do you do with the data that you track? Like you say you track, say you're using, Google Analytics or whatever. Do you have an outside thing that you use you said spreadsheets, right? What does that information, do to help you?
The funny thing is like, and this is a very spooky thing, and people will not believe this. This is a very spooky thing. If you look at a certain set of data, right? You look at data and you just look at it. If you're really looking at it from the standpoint that you want to be better, either as a business owner, making more money, making more gigs, just looking at it, your brain will start to talk. That data will actually start talking.
Right.
So one thing I looked at, I remember I was looking for patterns. I remember this was back in about like 2014 or something like that. I made a list of all the shows I booked for that year, and I put out the name of the company and what that dollar amount. And at the end of the year, I did my end of the year review, and I just started looking at it. And I started noticing, I was like, that's funny. I said, my 5 top paying shows this year came from churches. If I wasn't tracking that, I wouldn't have paid attention to that. So that's just me looking at the data. So now that becomes its own separate vertical when it comes to marketing, when it comes to pitching, when it comes to closing a deal, when it comes to pricing a deal, when it comes to structuring a deal. I remember that moment because I remember I was looking, I just looked because I sorted my list A to Z, like top paying shows to at least. And I was like, it was like one church paid me that year's like $1,200. Another church paid me like $800. Another church paid me $1,200. Another church paid me $15. Another church paid me $14. And then I had, a bunch of $600, $700, little shows. And I was like, my top 5 paying shows came from churches. But if I wasn't tracking that information, you don't know that.
Do you consider yourself an artist? Like, how would you describe, your magic?
I am a business owner that I've chosen entertainment as my business venture.
Interesting. Because I know, a lot of magicians are more of the weird, the artsy type people that aren't very business minded. And you said most of your books in the background are business books.
Yeah, that's the majority of that stuff. There's a couple magic magazines back there. Most of that is, we got a book, Buying Customers. We got How to Sell. We got Business Mastery. We have John Maxwell, 21.
We've got The Art of the Deal by Donald Trump. I've heard that's a good word.
I don't think it's back.
It's not back there.
I don't think that's back here. Don't you put that on me. Don't put that on me, Dan. That ain't back here, brother. That's not back here.
He's so inappropriate,
That's all right. It ain't back here. Yeah.
So I was wondering what the difference between, from a performance standpoint, not a business standpoint, from a performance standpoint, how would your performance be at a church as opposed to for corporate?
Nothing.
Exactly the same.
Yes, with the exception of me talking about my church back.
Okay, yeah.
That's it.
And then, so the same thing for a country club, the same thing for a phone company, the same thing for McDonald's. It's the same, pretty much the same show in the same format. It's just marketed to different individuals.
Yes, and that was done by design. I built a show like that on purpose. Okay, so these cats out here walking around talking about, I customize my show. No, that's what you tell yourself because you don't have a standard price. No, you don't. You doing 80% of the same thing you've done for the last show. You might change out this trick or change out that trick, blah, 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 blah. And man, all that stuff's cool. But 80% of the time, it's the same. So me, I'm just 100. I created a show. Now, here's what I will do. Now that I'm doing as much comedy as I am doing magic, if I'm in front of a group that I know is a little bit rowdy, I'll do a couple more PG jokes than I would for a straight-laced, straight-up Disney G-rated, like no goofing around. Right. But there's something that I do in the beginning of my show. The first 3 minutes I'm on stage, I do a litmus test and I determine how hard I can go with that audience. And I'm able to determine that in the first 3 minutes or less, because I do my first 3 jokes and if I hear the laughs and I can hear how much they laugh, if I don't get the laughs I really want, then I know, okay, cut it back. But if I get the laughs I want,
but you've been doing this for what, 20, 30 years. So you have the metrics in your head, of how to measure that. How many years have you been doing this?
Full-time living?
Well, just, corporate events and, being able to.
I mean, I've been shuffling cards, man, since 95.
Okay.
I've been in the game since 95. So some of these younger cats, man, they coming at me in these groups and they in my comments is like, bro, you don't know me, man. You don't know that I drove 8 hours to do a $200 show. You don't know that I drove 8 hours to do a $75 show because I was trying to build my show on stage. I was trying to build myself as a comedy magician. I wasn't funny yet. You don't know that about me. And I did that before the internet, before Google and YouTube. Okay. It was Yahoo. Okay. Yahoo was the thing. But you don't know that about me yet, man. You don't know that I was in those magic books that aren't in print anymore. Just because you're not seeing me, doing a bunch of Simon Aronson moves on my videos, it don't mean I don't know them.
How does your comedy, your comedy show, because you seem like, a very business-minded, straightforward, serious person in real life. So right. How does that turn into your comedy?
Bro, comedy's about
do you snap into a different beast of your own stage or?
Yeah, I do. 100%. I mean, I'm a different, when it comes to me rocking the stage, man. I mean, when I'm there in show mode, it's about rocking the crowd.
You said when I called you,
this is the kind of operation we run here, Dwayne.
We're very professional.
Yeah, it's like I don't even have a good metaphor to explain it, but it's bad.
It's okay, but it's like we working, man. We working. I love that.
Yeah.
And I'm trying.
What's your question, Dan? Dan, it seemed like your wheels are turning, Dan. So you got questions.